think we're all slotted in, and we're almost ready to go here in Malaysia. It's lights out, and away we go. It's a very good start from Nico Rosberg, and Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel trying to cover him off, but Rosberg looks to have got ahead. He has of Sebastian Vettel, so it's Hamilton from Rosberg and Vettel, and then Fernando Alonso, but down the inside, Danny Ricciardo gets a really good line going into turn one. Has he now managed to get ahead of the Ferrari? He has got ahead of the Ferrari. He's challenging his teammate. Sebastian Vettel is down towards turn three they go. Hulkenberg just gets squeezed out a bit from the Ferrari, and it's Ricciardo ahead of Vettel behind Rosberg and pressurising the Mercedes as Hamilton goes into turn four in the lead.
Rosberg just couldn't get the power down, not quite enough temperature in those rear tyres. Hamilton away at the front, really aggressive drive from Danny Ricciardo, and we've got contact at the back.
Jules Bianchi and Pastor Maldonado have made contact, and Daniel Ricciardo was pushing his teammate Sebastian Vettel onto the dirt, as well as we ride on board with Kevin Magnussen now. Hamilton, Rosberg, Ricciardo, Vettel, Alonso at the front, and there's Kimi Raikkonen under pressure from Kevin Magnussen going through turn 8, but look at the lead Hamilton has already into turn 9.
Yeah, he got a good bite in there, good purchase on the track, and away he went as Rosberg was all over the place. And through already then, Felipe Massa making his way up the field.
Felipe Massa moving himself ahead of Esteban Gutierrez. Started on the grid, Felipe Massa in 13th, and he's up into the points already. And we had the coming together of the Lotus and the Marussia down at turn 4, one of the heavy braking zones, as the field file their way through the slalom ski course that is turns 11 down towards 14. And now they can almost relax a bit. A kilometre-long straight coming their way. And as Lewis Hamilton hits the final turn, the final car, Max Chilton, just making his way onto that back straight.
And Ricciardo then held that against Sebastian Vettel. That laid down a real marker, didn't it, from Danny Ricciardo?
Yeah, he's got the honey badger on his helmet, the animal that fights pound for pound better than any animal in the jungle, and he's fighting out there today. As look behind, Hulkenberg and Alonso going into turn 1. Hulkenberg trying to dance around the outside of the three-time Malaysia Grand Prix winner, and has he managed to get the inside line? Yes, he has. Down into turn 2, Alonso's going to try and fight him back as we ride on board with Magnussen. Almost touched Kimi Raikkonen, but he got a great exit out of it, and Magnussen's put himself up into 7th place.
Great driving there from young Magnussen, but action all over the place. We've got a slow Ferrari.
I think that's Kimi Raikkonen, and I wonder if there was contact between himself and Kevin Magnussen. Magnussen got a great exit out of turn 2, but Raikkonen is really struggling.
I have a left rear tyre.
Left rear down, yeah. So there was contact. Well spotted, David.
And then one by one, they all pass Kimi Raikkonen. Oh, absolute despair for the Kimster here in Malaysia, and he is going to have to limp a long way around this track before they can get that right rear tyre fixed. Disaster for him. On the plus side for Valtteri Bottas, just to let you know, he's made up 6 places at the start, currently running in 12th place is Valtteri Bottas.
Problem Raikkonen's got, of course, is not to let that delaminate and start flapping around, damaging the undertray and the rear wing. It's only flat at the bottom at the moment, but he needs to slow down and keep it slow.
And there is Jules Bianchi. We saw the contact between himself and Pastor Maldonado, and into the pits comes Bianchi. Bottas has now moved himself up into 10th place, to let you know, as down towards the final turn comes Sebastian Vettel, closing up on his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. But he's not going to get past him. He was too far back. It's Hamilton with DRS now enabled, who has a 3.2-second advantage over his teammate Nico Rosberg. He's under pressure from Ricciardo and Vettel behind him. Then comes Alonso, Hulkenberg, Magnussen and Button, Massa and Bottas the top 10. Then as we look now to see the 2 McLarens, Magnussen and Button very close together. In fact, Jenson Button manages to move just ahead of Kevin Magnussen through turn 1 as we look at Jean-Eric Vergne coming into the pits, and what sounds like a bit of a rough Toro Rosso, but you're never quite sure at that speed whether it's engine or something else. And it looks like Sergio Perez has been retired from this race, whilst Kimi Raikkonen now comes into the pits as well.
Sort of younger teammate, and he's really struggling for pace, isn't he? Look at the distance already that he's fallen behind.
never raced here before, has Kevin Magnussen. Down to you, Ted.
And it's a new set of option tyres for Kimi Raikkonen. They want to stay on the strategy as much as they can, although this would have cost them 25 seconds in race time. Haven't seen Maldonado yet, so it seems he's continuing. And Bianchi and Jean-Eric Vergne front wings changed on both of those Frenchmen, and it was the tyres, as you saw. Bianchi was missing his left rear.
Yeah, and I'd say that delaminated time, Raikkonen's car had taken quite a nibble out of the under tray, but it doesn't look like it did any real damage to his rear wing. But the other two guys, you might as well just go, you know, if you're in a Marussia at the moment, you've got to get to the end of the race. This is where you're going to score the point. Go round last at the beginning. Your performance is nowhere near racing some of these cars. No, there's just no excuses for crashing those.
Felipe Massa is on Kevin Magnussen now, wheel to wheel. They go down towards the final turn with Valtteri Bottas right behind Magnussen himself. Massa has moved ahead of the McLaren. Magnussen struggling a little bit as there goes Sebastian Vettel under DRS, swoops past Daniel Ricciardo. It's Red Bull exchanging places with Red Bull. It's Vettel going up into third place and into the podium positions as we look back to Magnussen, who's managed now to get ahead of Felipe Massa. They're trading places. It's like a gentleman's excuse me out there at the moment. Magnussen is struggling after that contact with Kimi Raikkonen. Raikkonen doesn't think he hit anybody, but I think Magnussen must have hit him, damaged Raikkonen's tyre, and probably damaged his front wing end plate as well.
Yeah, I just keep trying to look at his end plate. Yeah, I think it's a bit broken away, left front wing end plate. We'll try and get a better shot of that. The Kvyat, who's in 12th place at the moment, shaping up against Gutierrez.
It looks to me like they're not bothering about saving fuel too much at the moment. They're all going for it out there if they can, and we've got places swapping left, right and centre, and a lot of it happening around the area of Kevin Magnussen, who's currently in 9th place, but has Massa and Bottas all around him. Magnussen in 8th place, I should say, is on board with Felipe Massa. We ride now, just inches away from the rear of that McLaren in the slow corner of turn 9.
OK, Lewis, Nico's struggling with rear tyres, so make sure you look after them.
4 seconds out front, of course, at the moment, Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, that's an early warning system going on.
Nobody threatening Lewis Hamilton at the moment in these early stages of the Malaysian Grand Prix. Got the perfect getaway and he has been off into the distance ever since. The stewards are going to look at that collision between Maldonado and Bianchi, and they're looking at it right now, investigating one of the drivers for causing a collision as Hamilton finishes his lap 4 seconds clear of Nico Rosberg. We look at Magnussen in 8th and then Massa in 9th and Bottas in 10th going through the final turn. He's starting to hold a lot of cars up now, and they've all got DRS usage down the straight, but Magnussen keeping ahead of the two Williams who were fastest 1 and 2 in the speed traps in the dry sessions. Behind them, Fiat and Esteban Gutierrez. Lovely move by Danny Fiat. He forced Esteban Gutierrez a bit deep into the corner and then just swooped by on the inside. Oh, like that.
It's close, isn't it, in the midfield there? A little bit of a queue, really, behind the struggling Magnussen. There's 8 cars, I think it is. There's a replay of the start. I thought Lewis bogged down initially, but then he got away in the second phase, and it was nip and tuck between Vettel and Rosberg. And let's just watch Danny Ricciardo goes up the inside of both Ferraris and then up the inside of his own teammate. Gets the high ground on the outside of turn 2 and braves it out with the world champion and then pushes him out of the way. But now that is where Raikkonen and Rosberg lit up the rear tyres and had 2 Red Bulls all over him.
You can see what it looks like now from on board with Nico Rosberg. Watch Sebastian Vettel trying to cover him off. Gave him just enough space to get past before he made contact with the wall. Rosberg was edged towards the wall by his teammate Mark Webber here in 2006, I remember.
There we go. Oh, I hope we're going to stay on board and see that one. Jean-Eric Vergne then.
Started 9th.
And going nowhere in a hurry. And backwards it seems, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can bet your bottom dollar that the start system wasn't quite optimised the way Jean-Eric Vergne would have liked it there. And the Lotus, the final car to get ahead of him, and then he's scrapping it out in the minor placings. He's down in 19th. As we look now at what happened at turn 4, Sebastian Vettel getting edged out onto the dirt, and Kimi Raikkonen as well. And then right at the back, well, Bianchi went into Maldonado.
No doubt about that.
Now this is Kimi Raikkonen ahead of Kevin Magnussen.
Oh, there it goes.
As
There's a lot of wing missing, isn't there?
Yeah, and an instant tyre pressure going down, and at the end result from a puncture of Kimi Raikkonen's car.
Kimi was quite lucky in that it's rolled off like a polo mint rather than breaking up completely, and that's what saved his rear wing.
A polo mint has been under the sofa for about 5 years in that colour, but I know what you mean there. Raikkonen down in 20th place now after that coming together with Kevin Magnussen. His teammate Jenson Button just goes through the foreground, and then Magnussen ahead of Massa, ahead of Bottas, ahead of Danny Fiat, who's now up into 11th place.
I would imagine they're thinking about changing that front wing of Kevin Magnussen's lap of the race, despite being told to mind your tyres. So he's obviously super comfortable out there with a lead now 4.3 seconds.
We've seen the replay of the incident between Raikkonen and Magnussen, and the stewards have seen it too, which is why they're now investigating Kevin Magnussen for causing a collision.
Well, they're really tightening this up. There's no doubt about it. I mean, that was just sort of regular combat, I would have thought.
Felipe Massa on the team radio is saying, did you see what he did? He crashed me. Copy that, so the Williams team will look into it. So Felipe Massa not overly happy at the moment. I assume he's talking about Kevin Magnussen there as well. And let's talk about Sergio Perez, who's having a wretched start to the season. Managed to pick up a point in Australia after Daniel Ricciardo's disqualification, but he didn't even start today. And the first 5-second stop-go penalty of 2014 for Jules Bianchi for causing a collision. So he's got to come in and serve that 5-second stop-go penalty, which can be done before his pit stop, but they can't do any work on the car until the 5 seconds have elapsed.
Yes, it's different to the 10-second penalty.
Did you see what we did? We crashed me.
Don't attack Massa, don't be aggressive to Massa. We need to let him go through Magnussen, and then we'll just follow through.
I'll tell him to go through. I have more pace.
Where have you heard that one before?
Get him out of the way.
It's always in Malaysia they get a bit hot-headed, isn't it? Is it something to do with the 32 degrees air temperature?
But it was interesting to listen to the tone of the two radio messages. One was quite excited and the other was very Scandinavian cool.
Yeah. Bottas is there lurking, so the radio message is all about the two Williams.
OK, Pastor, we need to box the car to retire at the end of this lap. We need to box the car to retire at the end of this lap.
Copy. But
Poor Pastor Maldonado, you do feel a bit sorry for. Made the transition from Williams to Lotus, didn't finish in Australia, struggled to start in Australia, and now for whatever reason is going to be out of the Malaysia Grand Prix. Could be because of the incident with Jules Bianchi, could be something else.
Had a fair old thump, didn't it, Ted?
Yeah, I thought something was up when the guy doing the numbers on the Maldonado's pitboard started putting everything away. And they started rearranging some chairs in the garage. I thought, OK, what's up here? So that's a horrible end to Maldonado's side of the garage for what's been a horrible weekend for everybody in the Lotus team. You just have to feel for them personally, because it's not much fun coming to work at the moment. Just a few other things. Lewis Hamilton looking calm and collected everything as we approach lap 10. Strategically, the window opens for the first of the 3 stops, looking at around lap 13, but as degradation seems to be quite high because of the green track, because of the rain, all the rain we had overnight, I think we are going to see 3 stops for pretty much everybody. So what, again, Horner said, didn't he? We hope that it will come back during the race, but I must say, the history is of these things not coming back, and if it doesn't come back, well, are we in for an Australia situation again? We're going to be following that throughout the race.
Yeah, well, hopefully Christian Horner will be joining us live from the Red Bull pit wall, and we'll get an answer to that as well, Ted, if we can. It's a really good point you made. It's looking at the times at the moment. Sebastian Vettel lapping half a second, 0.6 of a second slower than Nico Rosberg, which is kind of what we saw on Friday during the long run paces as well. Daniel Ricciardo half a second behind Rosberg, but no doubting who's got the hot pace at the moment is this man in your screens, Lewis Hamilton, 1:47.4 for his last lap, half a second quicker than his teammate Nico Rosberg, struggling with the rear tyres. Rosberg in second place, but 5 seconds back. Sebastian Vettel, further 3.5 seconds back in third. Then comes Ricciardo in fourth. Fernando Alonso sticking to Ricciardo's tail at the moment, only a second down on him. Then comes Nico Hülkenberg in sixth, Jenson Button seventh, Kevin Magnussen, Felipe Massa and Valtteri Bottas completing the top 10.
Hamilton out front, just stroking that Mercedes beautifully. We're used to seeing him being a very acrobatic driver. That's when he needs to be. Right now, he's doing exactly what he needs to keep his tyres intact, and half a second quicker than his teammate pretty much consistently.
It's going to mean a lot to him, Lewis Hamilton, if he can be successful here this afternoon. Not only will it be his 100th points finish in Formula One, but will end as well a run of 9 races without a podium. One short of his longest streak actually in Formula One as well. Desperate not just to get back on the podium, but on the top step as well. 9 laps into it, and it's going well so far.
Interesting to see how far Raikkonen can come back through the pack. He's up to 19th now. He's a minute and 15 seconds off the lead, and 35 seconds away from us.
And Kevin, box this lap, confirm.
And so the 3-stop window we thought would open up at around about lap 11, coming in 1 lap shy of that. Kevin Magnussen for what should be the first of his scheduled stops, but will they, Martin, replace that front wing?
I think they have to. It's worth a dozen seconds. It'll cost them, I'd have thought. With 46 laps remaining, let's have a look. Ted.
Well, they've got a nose cone in the front wing ready, and yeah, so damage, pretty big damage actually to it. And are they going to change it?
Yes,
they are. So should take 12 seconds for a really quick one. This one's taking longer. They're having problems getting the nose cone off, and that's frustrating. What's happening here? I can just see it from the back. Finally, did they actually change it?
Yeah, they did, Ted.
Okay, I was just watching from the back.
We had an
sorry, Martin. Yeah, that took a little longer than it should have.
Yeah, we had an overhead view actually, Ted. They did the tyre change first, and then did the nose.
And a tyre change should take pit lane loss here about 23 seconds. That was 37 seconds for Magnussen, so it's cost him around about 14 seconds. It's brought him back out onto the track down in 17th place. He's got some work to do now from there.
And he's got to get through that midfield pack, hasn't he?
Meanwhile, at Williams, Felipe Massa now 8th, Valtteri Bottas 9th, and they're free to keep going as Kevin Magnussen, next time he comes into the pits, is going to have to stay a little bit longer than he would have wanted. Once again, he's been given a 5-second stop-go penalty for causing a collision. Hit Kimi Raikkonen, damaged Raikkonen's right rear tyre. Magnussen picks up a penalty.
I bet we wish they'd have known that a couple of minutes ago. They could have served that while they were doing. Would have made it a very long stop, but as I say, on the 5-second penalty, they're allowed to stop for 5 seconds, then start their pit stop. But on a drive-through or a 10-second stop and go, they're not allowed to do any work.
So they'll wait until the second pit stop on that. If a driver's been in for all their pit stops and they get a 5-second penalty, the time is then added to their race time at the end of the race, which is how they work it out. Magnussen's got a penalty. Jules Bianchi picked up a penalty as well. He's actually in the pits as I speak. Jules Bianchi, as is Danny Kvyat, and Esteban Gutierrez a long way down, a long way back from this man, our race leader Lewis Hamilton, who is now over 6 seconds clear of his teammate Nico Rosberg. So, as it was in Australia, it's a Mercedes a long way out in front. This time, the difference being it's Mercedes from Mercedes. Hamilton's gone further than he did in Australia and is taking full advantage. What a frustrating problem for Lewis Hamilton. The blue tubing that encases the spark plug, they've got a hairline fracture in it. I was speaking to Andy Cowell, the director of high-performance engines for Mercedes, and I said, go on, multi-million-pound business this. How much the price of a blue rubber tube? He went, about €1. And that's what did for Lewis Hamilton in Australia.
These things make and break championships. Long way to go yet in this particular one, and effectively 20 races worth of points this year, of course, with double points for the final race. And Lewis's right rear tyre is just marking up a little bit in the middle, but he's still been in the 1 minute 47. Let's see what this one is. Vettel starts to stretch his legs out a little bit to his teammate, and as ever, Nico Hülkenberg right there. That's the sharp end.
Drives a steady race with good pace, Nico Hülkenberg. Hopefully for his sake, collecting good points again as Alonso now pits. Remember last time out in Australia, Ferrari suffered the misfortune of the undercut. They're coming in first now, 10.
Yeah, just on Red Bull, we've had on Multi21, we've just had a message saying to Vettel, saying default 13, default 1-3. Well, that is their numbers now, isn't it? And they are running 1-3 on the road, aren't they? Have they just changed multi to default now?
Is default 1-3 then the default setting on the track, or it's probably an engine mapping? So you're so mischievous sometimes, you are.
So Lewis, 0.2 faster last lap. We're just waiting for the window to open.
So for Mercedes, the window not yet opening, and round about lap 14, Martin, could be the window for a two-stop strategy, not a three-stopper, as Alonso manages to get past Romain Grosjean. He's now up to 9th.
Having just come out of the pits on a fresh set of tyres, of course, but Grosjean clearly wasn't full throttle through turn 3, which is actually what used to be a straight as far as these guys were concerned, unless it was raining. In fact, the cars do look like they've got grip similar to light sprinkling of rain, don't they?
Well, as Bruno Senna was saying, you know, that there are corners on this track now that used to be absolutely flat for the drivers. Now they're having just to take a little bit more care. Downforce isn't there anymore. So Benedict Cumberbatch watches on from the Mercedes garage, and hopefully
the undercut is pretty massive if you go in a little bit earlier than your rival. So it's going to be as much as 2 seconds per lap. Ricciardo's pit, I was just about to talk about what will Red Bull do. So Red Bull could well put Ricciardo back in front of Vettel.
Well, they've got to cover the undercut from Alonso with Daniel Ricciardo. That's kept Sebastian Vettel out for another lap at least. And is that the Ferrari coming down the straight? It is Fernando Alonso we can see here as Valtteri Bottas goes through. Here comes Alonso on the right-hand side of your screen. Daniel Ricciardo on the left-hand side of your screen. And oh boy, that was close. Fernando Alonso just swooped past him, but now has Daniel Ricciardo fought back enough? Let's see as they head down the hill towards turn 3. It's very, very tight indeed. Ricciardo just by a nose, an ugly nose in Formula 1, manages to stay ahead of the Ferrari. You say it was a massive advantage, the undercut. That absolutely proves it, Martin.
Yes, it did. What a difference that made. Now, where will Sebastian Vettel be in all this? He was a bit further up the road, of course, but I think Fernando just got a little bit too trigger happy with the brakes there. He went in supremely deep into turn 1. He wanted to really get track position, and he just got in a bit hot, and Ricciardo kept his head and came back underneath him. Great driving from both of them.
And the thing about the undercut now is you have to plan for this a few laps ahead to fully charge your energy store, that 4 megajoules of full charge that you can get, to try and react to it. If you've not got that charge, well, the guy that's doing the undercut can go significantly faster because he's got more energy.
Box, box, box.
And Sebastian Vettel is now going to have to come and pit himself, and is doing so. So a pit lane loss of about 23 seconds. Let's see if the Red Bull crew can actually get Sebastian Vettel changed and back out again in record time.
Ricciardo and Alonso then, who are behind Bottas now, are just coming around the last corner. He should be okay with this one. It should be fine, actually, to maintain position.
Well, he's got to stay at 80 kilometres an hour, whilst Ricciardo and Alonso can enjoy anything up to about 300 kilometres an hour as they come down the straight. And we see Jenson Button coming into the pits now. Down to you, Ted, as all. Out comes Sebastian Vettel just for 2 seconds. The Williams of Bottas goes past, but he hasn't pitted yet. And you'll see Ricciardo and Alonso still behind Vettel. Ted.
Yeah, not a bad stop for Jenson Button. A little longer than they'd like, as you can see, 3.3. They should be going for around 2.8. Jenson was a little slow getting away. Just to tell you about Kevin Magnussen, he can wait. McLaren will serve the 5-second stop-go at his next pit stop.
Valtteri Bottas was holding up Sebastian Vettel, didn't hold up Daniel Ricciardo, and Vettel managing to get past down at turn 4, and now Bottas ahead of Alonso, but of course he's on tyres that are 14 laps old.
So box, box, box.
And now they're all going to have to start to react. Have Mercedes got the advantage with Nico Rosberg they need to keep him ahead of those that are trying the undercut? Is Fernando Alonso going to get past Valtteri Bottas here? It's where he clashed with Kvyat in qualifying. Kvyat was the man on the inside that time around. They didn't touch here, and Alonso moves himself up past Valtteri Bottas into 6th place. Bottas, just to reaffirm, hasn't pitted yet.
Yeah, big degradation there. 0.2 of a second per lap. In Melbourne, we saw it as a 0.05 per lap on the medium compound tyre. Big difference.
Okay, Lewis, you're good on fuel, so you can start to push. It won't be long.
Yeah, until he pits as well, I'd have thought. Out comes Rosberg. Vettel just making his way towards the final turn now. You should see him in his shot. There you go. The top of the screen. 2.5 second pit stop from Rosberg. Very good stationary stop there for the Mercedes.
So Lewis had a 6.6 second lead. They don't have to worry quite so much about the undercut, of course. And they've told him, meanwhile, just turn the gas up a little bit, and then they'll need to get him in quite soon.
So box the end of this lap, box the end of this lap.
And the percentage of fuel used, we can see on the side of your screen there. Hamilton using less fuel so far than Sebastian Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso, Jenson Button as well. Felipe Massa saving a bit of fuel there in 9th place, and less than Nico Rosberg as well for Lewis Hamilton. So out in the lead and using percentage-wise less fuel as well to do it.
Absolutely. And all the Mercedes cars standing out very well there on fuel consumption.
Brand new graphic that we've got for 2014, and we like that graphic a lot. It's going to tell us quite a bit, especially towards the end of the race.
Red Bull will probably tell you it's not accurate, though.
Yeah, but we can use it. We're not breaking the directive. That's fine.
I don't know how accurate it is, but it's to do 2 decimal places, and it's coming off centres on the cars through the telemetry. So we'll go with it.
Yeah, I'd like to know, is that fuel flow sensor working on Ricciardo's car at the moment as the Mercedes team wait for our race leader, Lewis Hamilton, into the pits for his first stop of what could be a 2-stop strategy. And just making their way around the final turn is Nico Hülkenberg, who was running third and hadn't actually stopped in the race yet. So I think Hülkenberg is going to take the lead of this race, and he's not the one that Lewis Hamilton's racing at this moment in time. Lost 0.6 of a second in the pit stop, Hamilton, to his teammate Rosberg, but comes out ahead of the guys he's racing. His teammates, Sebastian Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo and Fernando Alonso, who are down that main straight at the moment. Sebastian Vettel just put in the fastest lap of the race as well, with a 1:46.3 to close the gap to Nico Rosberg in third.
Yeah, they're stealing all the grip out of those new tyres. The good news for Lewis, of course, is he was the lines of the track in turn 6. This is 7 and 8, and he's almost parked on the apex. He's got no grip.
Just holding Lewis up a little bit, though. Not Nico Hülkenberg's fault. He hasn't quite got the grip. And Lewis just finding himself a little bogged down here behind the Force India. We're riding on board with Lewis Hamilton at the moment. If you want to do that all the time, you can at Sky Race Control on both Mercedes cars and both Red Bulls, as well as Hamilton makes the overtake look as simple as it should have been on a fresh set of tyres and moves himself back into the lead.
It's Magnussen up to P11 at the moment. Probably 10 as Kobayashi has just pitted, so 10th on the road.
Meanwhile, Kimi Raikkonen, who of course had that puncture and had to pit so much earlier than everybody else at the end of the second lap, is now 19th and right on the tail of Marcus Ericsson. Ted.
Yeah, Hamilton's just been told to look after his tyres, so I'm not sure we can read into that it's automatically a 2-stop. I think it's more likely to be a symmetrical 3, stopping again on maybe lap 35, and just minimising the time on the slower, harder tyre, the hard tyre, maybe putting that on as Hülkenberg pits. So he has had enough of those tyres. That wasn't going to work if Force India were considering a 2-stop. And just minimising the time at the end for Hamilton on the slower, hard tyre, maybe boxing on lap 49 or 50. So that would be an optimum strategy if you've got a car advantage and everything's going well and you're driving well, and all those 3 do apply to those.
Well, quite. The inference I was getting from the strategy guys from each team was that you go into this race thinking about a 2-stop strategy, because in effect that's the way they think there's less risk, but knowing that you can convert it, and you've got plenty of time to convert it into a 3 if you need to.
Well, on Lewis's radio, he was told it's a similar length stint for the next set of tyres. No flap adjust, no front wing adjust, which confirms what a lovely balance he's got out there. Whereas I think Vettel was asking for -4 on his front wing, which is 4 turns. Probably quite a fine adjustment, but still a reasonable front wing change for Sebastian Vettel.
Well, I said that Kimi Raikkonen was on the tail of the Caterham. Blimey, the Kobayashi got a little bit handy there. There's Ericsson, and there's the Danny Kvyat in the Toro Rosso. Raikkonen, sorry, Jean-Eric Vergne, I should say. Raikkonen making his way past the Toro Rosso, but Vergne nearly found himself in the middle of an accident scene down at turn 1 through no fault of his own again, Raikkonen.
Kobayashi's not yielding, is he? Might not be.
Oh, sorry, it's Ericsson once again. Sorry, Kobayashi was just a little bit ahead of these two. And there's Vergne going around the outside.
Yeah.
Oh. And Ericsson didn't see him coming, and Raikkonen was right there on the scene.
It's great when the GP2 drivers step up to F1 because
Daniel Ricciardo, as we watch towards the final hairpin, Marcus Ericsson and Kimi Raikkonen. Sweden against Finland in the Caterham and the Ferrari. Let's go down to the Red Bull pit wall now. Christian Horner. Christian, thanks ever so much for joining us. First and foremost, how's that fuel flow sensor on Daniel Ricciardo's car? Is it working now?
I'm afraid it's dead. So, yeah, that's what, we had to cover Daniel and then bring Seb in the next lap. They all got quite close, but, they dealt with it pretty well. So, the crucial thing now is how these tyres are going to act over the next couple of stints.
Thanks ever so much, Christian. Hopefully we'll talk to you towards the end of the race as well. But Hamilton continues to lead. Rosberg just sent his fastest lap of the race, and we ride on board with Sebastian Vettel, some 2 seconds behind Nico Rosberg. And Red Bull very much in the hunt, just for a podium here, but keeping tabs with Rosberg at the moment.
Special aerodynamically, and they'll just walk that as they can get more power and better systems. They'll walk that towards the Mercedes, and hopefully they'll drag the Ferrari along with them.
Kimi Raikkonen pits Ted Kravitz once more.
He does, and of course they have to rejig the strategy because of his unplanned early stop. This time it's for the slower hard tyre. They're working pretty sweetly, and it's a nice stop. Kimi goes away. There is a bit of bodywork damage, you're right, Martin, but well, we'll see what he can recover from this. But yeah, so that was fascinating what Christian Horner was saying. So they are working with the FIA this weekend, and that's good. That means fingers, toes, everything crossed. We won't have a repeat of the disqualification that we had in Australia.
Our tyre expert, Martin Brundle, will now give us his verdict on Lewis Hamilton's rears, and the front left that he locked up, the front right as well.
It looks a little bit angry. It's a little bit of tearing on the surface that you get early on, where the rubber tears rather than grips, but it'll clean up. They were taking 2 or 3 laps to clean up in Australia. But you want to see a nice dull surface. That's when you know, as you can see on the top of that Toro Rosso as it comes in, that's why when you're sitting in the cockpit, you can see your front tyres and you see your rear tyres in the mirrors.
And they'll be able to see Jean-Eric Vergne at close quarters at Toro Rosso. I think he's now being retired from this race, or certainly from any competitive running, and he's out of the car. A disappointment for the man that scored points, of course, was on the case for scoring points in Australia. And sadly for him, a DNF here in Malaysia.
I sense that car never ran right. He obviously had problems away from the start, but his pace was pretty poor as well. I don't think Jeff's car was ever up and running today. What we got here then? So Bottas hunting down Kvyat in the Toro Rosso. Massa's ahead of them by 7.5 seconds now.
Danny Kvyat in the pits.
Energy, so you'll get less K clipping if you can keep this setting. We'll get more K release if you can keep this setting.
K being kinetic, the energy that's harvested under the engine braking system.
With batteries. You can hear the car rubbing on the ground coming into the braking zones. There's a better sound inside the cockpit than outside.
And out of the cockpit, Jean-Eric Vergne points in Australia. Nothing here today. Looks a little bit angry with life. As we look at his teammate, Danny Kvyat, ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Massa's pulled clear of these two. Just that earlier stop helping him a little bit to get him ahead of his teammate, who was becoming a bit of a nuisance to him in the early stages. But Kvyat then managed to jump Valtteri Bottas. Now, what about this speed of the Williams down the main straight? He's got DRS, of course, to help him, nudging 200 miles an hour. Has to go on to the marbles, but manages to get it done.
And gap to Vettel is currently 2.5. We'd like to increase the gap, and then we can go to more savings.
And What is interesting is Massa in the other Williams is beginning now to catch Jenson Button.
Certainly is, and Fiat hasn't given up this fight either as at the turn 4 we go. That radio message to Rosberg's quite interesting. I think they need a bigger gap, Martin, so that they can be clear of any undercut to come at the next round of pit stops. But, in doing that, they've kind of got to use up more fuel. Ooh. Fiat nearly lost his moment completely there. Good save.
Are having to drive these cars, aren't they? It's much more tiring like that, actually, mentally. You're driving the piece of tarmac just in front of you, rather than put the nose into the apex, forget the corner, and look ahead.
Which could make the final stages of this race interesting, because it's mentally tiring and physically tiring enough, even before the new 2014 version of Formula One. Hamilton's lead, 9.7 seconds. What's the gap between Rosberg and Vettel? It's 2.4 seconds. He didn't manage to pull away 1 iota, 1,000th or 100th from that particular lap. Nico Rosberg.
It was Nico's personal best, but Lewis was still 0.2 faster.
Significantly for Rosberg's particular fight at the moment, Vettel was faster than him. So lap 22 of this Malaysia Grand Prix, which Lewis Hamilton has been out in front for the vast majority of the 22 laps, and he lost the lead when he pitted, and Nico Hülkenberg hadn't come into the pits yet. Nico Rosberg maybe struggling with tyres a little bit, certainly hasn't got the pace of his teammate, holding on to second place at the moment after jumping this man, Sebastian Vettel, at the start. Vettel then got jumped.
After this engine, we're just going to turn it down a little bit. It'll be HPP2 to position 2. That's for both cars.
So we're not giving you any worse treatment than Nico. And it is the engine, remember, the internal combustion engine that Lewis used in Australia.
That's managing the message, isn't it? That's very good. You'd love that kind of service when you rang up about your mobile phone playing up or something, wouldn't you? To have that kind of clarity and also answer your next question before you ask it. Brilliant.
It's a bit nice to be told you're just as important as everybody else. You're a valued customer, yes. Mr. Hamilton.
Yeah, they just headed off to... What's Nico doing?
Well, we've had that in the past. Turkey springs to mind with the two Red Bulls, engines being turned down and some not turned down quite so much. And then multi-21 here, of course, last year as well. And meanwhile, Kimi Räikkönen, 18th at the moment, and still behind Marcus Ericsson after making 2 pit stops. We have lost from this race Jean-Eric Vergne, Jules Bianchi, Pastor Maldonado and Sergio Perez, who didn't even make the start. Let's head down to Natalie Pinkham.
Well, Sergio, a tough start for the season for you. Tell us what happened, why you couldn't even start the race.
Yeah, it was a big shame. Yesterday we had a similar issue with the downshifting. The rig was locking all the time, and I was getting some rejects on the downshift. So we changed the software, and I think there is some issue there that every time I downshift, the car goes into neutral and then it stalls. So I think there's something to be analyzed, and a bit disappointed, no, because I think today and yesterday, without the issue, we should have been really fighting for good points.
In comes Danny Kvyat in the Toro Rosso for his second stop. That wasn't speedy, was it? Out onto the racetrack in 15th place. And whilst we were hearing from Sergio Perez, Lewis Hamilton been asking Bono, his race engineer, anything else I can do to help look after this engine? And it's like, yeah, no, don't worry, everything's okay at the moment. Nico's going to be about 1/10 of a second faster than you, but he's just trying to build up a gap to Vettel, making sure Hamilton doesn't think anything's amiss there.
Yeah. And as Lewis told us, I don't know about running a Grand Prix with these cars. I'm looking forward to learning the second phase and the third phase of a race.
Well, if he can get past lap 6 and be in the lead as we approach the half-race distance every time, I think he's going to be quite happy as he learns, isn't he?
Absolutely.
9.5 seconds, the gap then, and there's the fuel used so far. For Hamilton, less than his teammate Rosberg. For Rosberg, less than Sebastian Vettel, who's less than Daniel Ricciardo. Fernando Alonso has less fuel than Ricciardo as well. Hülkenberg not using a huge amount of fuel in his Force India. Felipe Massa, nearly 38 to the end. It's about banking fuel so that you can push in the latter stages. So the more you bank, the more you protect your position whilst you're banking in the early part, the better off you're going to be when you can really go for it whilst others are struggling later on.
Absolutely. So Massa then inside the top 10. Of course, he's recently pitted, as does Gutierrez in the Sauber.
For his second stop in this race as well. We're getting now for a 3-stop. The window is very much open. Teams are looking for a 2-stop strategy here. You'd expect them to try and go on to about lap 35. It's pretty hot in the cockpit, in the garages, and out in the grandstands as well. The nudge towards 5 o'clock in the afternoon here in Malaysia. The air temperature still 32 degrees. I'm glad to say, Martin, the humidity not rising at the moment, which means that, fingers crossed, we're unlikely to get too much rain. Here's the previous gaps between Alonso and Hulkenberg, and you can see there how Alonso is just reducing. So just been reduced to Hulkenberg, that particular gap. Driving a really steady, splendid race here, Hulkenberg. 9/10 of a second faster on lap 24.
These are real technique cars.
So gap to Vettel, 3.6. We'd like to get it to at least 5, please.
Never satisfied, some people, are they?
I tell you what, man, who's always happy. Ted?
Yeah, I am actually, it's true. One man who's not particularly at the moment, Sebastian Vettel. They are having a bit of problem with harvesting the electricity for the battery through the KERS and the turbo energy recovery system as well. He just came over the radio, said that there was zero harvesting, but I think they've given him a setting which will allow that to happen. Obviously, if you can't harvest, then you won't have any electrical energy. Magnussen I'm just going to go into the McLaren garage actually to have a look. He's taken the 5-second penalty, so that's good. Comes in, changes tyres, and then goes out again. So that was nice thinking, using the rules to the most that they can, McLaren, to minimise the time lost by Kevin Magnussen. Just went into the Ferrari garage, everything going okay with Fernando Alonso. I wonder if he's just in a sort of period of fuel saving, whether he'll be able to do some damage to the gap in front of him a bit later in the race. Just to pick up a bit further on Ricciardo and the fuel flow sensor issue. Of course, now that Christian Horner confirms that the sensor has failed completely, that is a different problem, isn't it, to Australia when the flow was just faulty. So they're working to a sort of new setting that the FIA have given them, and that is all agreed between Charlie and the Red Bull pit wall.
This 5-second penalty is working extremely well. It's designed to give as Sittel goes underneath Max Chilton there. It's designed to give you a little bit of pain, but not wreck your whole race, and that's working.
It does the job for me, and things that are decided during the race as well, always much better than anything after it. Esteban Gutierrez behind Marcus Ericsson. This is a battle for position at the moment. Gutierrez has stopped twice, and Ericsson only the once. Max Chilton has only stopped once as well, which is why he's above the Sauber. Kobayashi stopped once, and he's running in 13th place at this moment in time, as we see Jenson Button stopping for a very neat piece of orchestrated tyre changing down at McLaren. They're working pretty well there as Button comes back out again with a 24.5 second stop while he comes out onto the track. I've just seen Romain Grosjean pit from 10th place. Button back out onto the track in 9th. So Kobayashi moves his way through, and then Esteban Gutierrez has to go onto the marbles, down and towards the hairpin. He's got Marcus Ericsson on his sides. He's managed to get almost a car's length ahead. Now he's got a full car's length ahead. Gutierrez puts that Sauber finally up past the Caterham, but he has made, of course, Gutierrez 2 stops in this race. Ericsson just the 1. Max Chilton stays ahead of Gutierrez going into turn 1.
Kobayashi up in 11th place. I think Caterham will be very satisfied with the race as it is at the moment. This is the best we've seen from them, isn't it?
Yeah.
All season by some margin, including all the pre-season testing.
Absolutely. Gutierrez is lining up Chilton. You can just see Kimi Raikkonen in the back of your screen there in the Ferrari as he gets most of this battle as well. Chilton for the second lap in a row gets passed by Sauber down at turn 4. It was Sittel, now it's Gutierrez, and he's starting to struggle on his tyres. But the thing for Chilton is to try and keep ahead of Marcus Ericsson. He's the one remaining Marussia left in this race after Jules Bianchi retired a long time ago. Kobayashi 11th place at the moment for Caterham. Helped, of course, by Magnussen's stop-go penalty and the slow time that he took to change that front wing. Helped by Kimi Raikkonen's problems as well. So Kobayashi up in 11th place. They'll be getting very excited down at Caterham. That one, Raikkonen goes in on the inside of Ericsson, who's going to see some blue flags now waving for him, as is Raikkonen. Like the Red Sea parting, if Lewis Hamilton is Moses, he goes straight through the middle of both of them. Hamilton manages to lap the Ferrari and the Caterham at the same time. Meanwhile, Danny Kvyat and Kamui Kobayashi exchanging places. Kvyat in the Toro Rosso, who's stopped a couple of times. Kobayashi just the one so far. The Russian getting up into 10th place. Kamui Kobayashi already this race 27 laps and a bit longer than it was in Australia. Let's just ride on board now with the Toro Rosso. Very close indeed to Kobayashi down the straight before he managed to get past and pop himself up into the points once again. On the hard compound tyre, of course, Kvyat.
Yeah, and the only man really that out there with a reasonable pace that can two-stop if he wants to. He's used both compounds.
Chilton keeps out the way of Lewis Hamilton. Now has to tuck back into the racing line because he's actually racing for position with Kimi Raikkonen. That man not racing at all, sadly, for Sergio Perez, as Alonso once again makes an earlier pit stop than his rivals, and he's gone on to the hard compound tyre. Surely he's not thinking another 28 laps, I don't have to pit again, or is he?
Well, the deck spin is bad on those, you've got to use them at some point, but wants to get him out of the way, but looks a bit.
He does, and Williams maybe covering that early pit stop as well. Do they think that they're racing Fernando Alonso as on go the option tyres for Felipe Massa? Back out into the race, into 9th place comes Massa, behind then Jenson Button, ahead of Danny Kvyat. And down and onwards he goes towards turn 2 as Kevin Magnussen, after his last stop, now sets the new fastest lap of the race. Ted, down to you.
Oh, is that a let's be racy at the end of the race when we've saved all the fuel we need to by Fernando Alonso? So he's thinking that Red Bull are going to be going with a standard strategy, which is medium, medium, hard as far as the tyres they use in their 3 stops. And then if they think they can go medium, hard, medium, they might be a bit more racy at the end.
He's on the par, Ted, with the 2 Red Bulls. A little bit less than both Vettel and Ricciardo, but not huge differences between the 2 of them. The one who is saving fuel out there, sorry to cut you off, Ted Martin, is 45% use, Felipe Massa so far.
Yep, up in 7th place at the moment, but look at this, and as Magnussen is coming back at Kobayashi, and in comes Danny Ricciardo.
So with Alonso pitting, that's now triggered Daniel Ricciardo to come and pit as well, and he's thinking, oh, if you want to go to the hard compound, I'll do it as well. Which might be an eminently sensible idea.
Yeah, nice if we can get to the end on those.
But at least it covers him, it gives him that option, and it's going to be a lot less close for Ricciardo as he comes out of the pits the second time around than it was after his first stop.
Incredible ride height again. I know it's a slow speed corner, so the downforce squashes the cars down, of course. That's why they touch the ground at high speed. But Red Bull running a very high rate this year again.
Kobayashi and Magnussen. Let's have a look at the speed advantage. If Magnussen's got one, and that McLaren. No, he hasn't down that back straight. Kobayashi keeps ahead, but under braking, Magnussen spots a really neat little opportunity to dive down the inside, get on the power, and away he goes down the main straight. Magnussen puts himself into 11th place, and Kobayashi down to 12th, and he'll now see behind him the Toro Rosso as well.
And because Magnussen, of course, was behind at the detection point, he actually had the DRS, even though he'd overtaken him meanwhile.
Absolutely, I should say the Lotus of Grosjean is running an unspectacular race, but at least he is running a race and getting some well-needed and much-needed data, at least.
It's about 3/4 second off the leading pace at the moment, Grosjean. It's coming together slowly but surely, isn't it, for Team Enstone?
I might just put the curse on a dry race then a few laps ago.
ice, probably. Then we've got a picture for pace. It's really interesting to see Massa's fuel consumption, if that's accurate. And why would we doubt it? But it might will start using some of that soon.
Quite. Looks up the inside. Kamui Kobayashi locks up going into the final turn. Grosjean gets the overtake done. Now it's a straight drag. Two Renault power units against each other. Caterham with, of course, the DRS. Grosjean's going to try and swap to the inside. There are marbles down there. I don't think that helps his cause, but I certainly think Kobayashi with the DRS made sure that Caterham stayed ahead.
Kobayashi's lost nothing in his wheel-to-wheel combat, has he, with his year away in GT racing?
It's great to see him back in Formula One again as well. A man who likes a battle. Does KK? Has Grosjean got enough under braking? No, into turn 4.
I'd say that's a much more accurate impression of what you hear in the car. All the other noises going on because you're parked so far away from the exhaust pipe.
OK, Lewis, there are clouds forming away from the circuit, possible threat of rain towards the end of the race, but we'll keep you updated.
When you're 10.2 seconds in the lead, that's not what you want to hear, really, is it?
Not especially. His teammate, by the way, 3.9 seconds clear of Sebastian Vettel, is down the inside, almost. Romain Grosjean. Oh, Kobayashi just squirming a little bit. Lack of grip, too much torque coming from the rear wheels. Grosjean probably suffering exactly the same thing himself as Ricciardo now sets a new fastest lap of the race, by the way, in 5th place after his second pit stop. And the likes of Vettel, Rosberg and Hamilton not looking to immediately cover the pit stops that we saw from Ricciardo and Alonso. Right, here goes Grosjean again. If he overtakes by the end of the straight, of course, Kobayashi's going to have the DRS uses once more, so maybe this time he's right to stay behind the Caterham.
He applied brain, didn't he? Now he can apply DRS, but he's a bit slow off the corner. He had to hesitate with Kobayashi getting a bit greedy on the amount of racetrack he wanted, which was his prerogative at that point. And now, with a bit of thinking power, he's got through. But knowing Kobayashi, you have to defend that a couple more times yet.
That was really good. That was what DRS is meant to do, Martin. You're meant to be able to overtake, but not too easily. You know, and at least he allowed Kobayashi half a chance to fight back there. So Vettel now comes in for his second pit stop of this race.
OK, Lewis, we're going to try and stretch these stints as long as we can, protect ourselves against some rain.
They're stretching the stints at Mercedes because they think they've got enough in hand to do so. Magnussen has just got past Danny Fiat to let you know whilst we were watching Sebastian Vettel. That's put him into the points, into 10th place. Sebastian Vettel comes out into this race still ahead of that Caterham and the Marussia because they are lapped cars, and he's ahead of Max Chilton on the track and ahead, crucially, of his teammate Ricciardo.
Box, box, box.
So Rosberg having to come into the pits to cover Vettel because there was only just under 4-second gap between them.
And Ricciardo's just done the fastest race lap as well on a 45.8, as you saw. We thought there were going to be a lot less marbles this year, didn't we? The discarded rubber, but with this high degradation level, they're building up thick and fast on the outside of the racing line.
Is it going to be? I think that's going to be track specific, isn't it? And this is quite punishing on the tyres, this one. Does that look grey enough for rain? Over yonder, Valtteri Bottas now, after his second stop with the fastest lap of the races. Our race leader, Lewis Hamilton, comes round the final turn to end lap 32 of this race. And he did have a 10.5-second advantage over Nico Rosberg, who we know is coming into the pits. Just looking at Rosberg's particular lap here, he's lost a bit of time to Sebastian Vettel, but by how much? Only less than a second in the middle sector, but that's very much in Vettel's favour. They can't take any chances here, that's why they've got to get him in. Option tyre going on to Nico Rosberg's car, same as Sebastian Vettel's, and there you can see the Red Bull in the distance, closing very, very fast indeed. Rosberg is going to get out. He is going to get out ahead.
OK, Lewis, so box the end of this lap, box the end of this lap. Push, push.
And they made their mind up to bring Lewis in as well. So a lap longer, Vettel would have stolen second place, and off Nico Rosberg.
Had to be done. Sometimes you hear a noise that sounds like the tyre squealing, but it's not. It's the recovery system kicking in and the turbo on overrun.
So Hamilton leads from Hulkenberg, who hasn't stopped for a second time yet, and then it's this duel that we're seeing now, Nico Rosberg and Sebastian Vettel in what is effectively a battle for second place once Hulkenberg makes his pit stop. One lap longer, Rosberg would have been history.
Yeah, that's why it's so comfortable for Lewis out front, isn't it? He's got the space to go that extra lap or two. A lap on this occasion again. Slightly fresher tyres. Playing nicely. There's the roof of that grandstand, the longest continuous grandstand in the world, I read.
At a sporting event, absolutely. It looked absolutely stunning in the flesh, I must admit. Right, Hamilton now stops, which should be able to get in and get out without losing the lead as well, because Hulkenberg hasn't even made the final turn yet, even though it was a 3.8 second stationary time on the pit stop. There he goes, Hamilton out onto the racetrack, and the Force India of Hulkenberg at a rate of knots, closing down on him, but too far back to make an impression on the lead. There comes Rosberg, there comes Vettel, who has stuck to his guns really well there, Sebastian Vettel, on this lap, by putting in, Martin, the fastest lap of the race so far.
There's a lot of latent performance in there in that Red Bull. Looks like they can deliver that soon, take it off, take it to Mercedes-Benz team, but you're right.
I'm really losing the rear now.
Hulkenberg wants to pit here. Going to go down to you, Ted, as we enter the middle part of the track where the Red Bull has been mighty throughout this weekend, and you get the feeling Vettel could stay on Rosberg's coattails for a while here.
Yeah, but the lap time's still okay for Hulkenberg. The Force India's trying to eke this out to a tip stop. If they can make it to laps 36, 37, 38, they can too stop it. Let's keep an eye on his lap times, Hulkenberg. If he stays within the 47s, he's okay. He's doing the times he needs, even though the tyres are going off. Any more than that, they might have to abandon it and go to the 3.
I think the wind has picked up a bit out there as well. While we were talking, Ted, I just opened the commentary box door, and the palm trees are starting to sway a little bit, which often means the rain might be coming.
Pits this lap, pit confirm. Pits this lap, pit confirm.
Someone's had... So, will he put... Oh, dear! I was just about to say, something has happened just out of the final corner, and it is Adrian Sutil in the Sauber that has parked up. Now, Lewis Hamilton has just gone through down the main straight. They're going to have to be very careful indeed here, as now Rosberg and Vettel go past.
There's a green light pretty soon afterwards, after the Sauber.
Just see it, the entrance to the pit lane, can't you?
The green flag too. There's a green light on the left-hand side as well, so they can follow out there and get on with their overtaking. But of course, there's a service road there. They should be able to get that out of the way. It's not in a dangerous position either.
Now, Hulkenberg pits for hard compound tyres. They can go to a two-stopper now because they've used both compounds of the Force India. Of more immediate concern, if you're a Nico Rosberg fan, as I said, Vettel can hang on to the coattails of the Mercedes here, and is doing so very nicely indeed. And once again, Martin, this is the part of the track where they've been mighty compared to the Mercedes this weekend.
Yeah. Now he's got to follow closely, though, and start damaging those front tyres in the turbulent and very hot air pouring out of the back of that Mercedes-Benz.
It's raining a little bit on the back of the circuit.
Wow. Thanks for that, Kimmy. So, that's good news for those that need a bit of a surprise in here to pull themselves back into position.
Nico Rosberg, look how much his fuel usage has gone up, Martin, compared to certainly his teammate. Still, Sebastian Vettel has used more, but Rosberg in this defence is having to use a lot more fuel than maybe he would have wanted at this stage.
But they told us that Vettel's fuel meter's pitched, so where's that information coming from then?
Well, Ricardo's fuel flow sensor has certainly pitched, but yeah.
Was it Ricardo, was it?
Yeah.
So, I wonder where that percentage is coming from.
So,
Okay, Daniel, just hit the beeps. Hit the lift-off beeps. Fuel is okay, just hit the beeps.
The beeps are what the drivers are getting in their crash helmet to start lifting and coasting.
Yeah. So what did Christian Horner say? That his fuel-censored pitch or the FIA-censored pitch? I thought it was the FIA one you said.
That's what I thought. That's certainly what I was asking about.
Yeah.
That's what he intimated with Ted on the grid. Ted, down to you.
Yeah, okay, so it's Ricciardo's car, and Martin, the FIA, the gill sensor, the FIA sensor has gone, has failed, or at least Red Bull say it has. So what they're doing now is driving to a pre-arranged backup in conjunction with the FIA to make sure it's
so the
backup.
we see on the radar is very, very light. Nothing to worry about at the moment, but just keep us updated.
Yeah, it's a pre-agreed calculation that they're working to, Martin, pre-agreed before the race with the FIA, and that's why they programmed it into the beeps in Ricciardo's ear, and that's what he's driving to.
On the lift-off, yeah. So that's a clever system, isn't it? Tell them, help the driver know, you know, lift and coast is fine, but it's a bit generic. It's how much, how early are you lifting, how much are you coasting to keep your fuel under control.
Mercedes would have expected Nico Rosberg to be a lot further ahead than Sebastian Vettel than he is at the moment. But on the last lap, he did pull out a half a second on the Red Bull behind him. Still those yellow flags around the final corner, which certainly protects Rosberg from any overtake. Vettel may have, the drivers could get racing once more. And the battle out in front then. Hamilton 12 seconds clear of Rosberg, with Sebastian Vettel 1.2 seconds behind the Mercedes, and there's Esteban Gutierrez with some smoking brakes and a car that is going to be retired from this race. So not one but two Saubers going from this race in the space of 3 laps, and you might want to get some fans on those brakes. Just stop smoking in a minute.
Yeah, you get a massive heat soak. Sounds like he's got a box full of neutrals.
Well, they're trying to improvise and try and get it going again, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. It's how hot these brakes get, and yeah, just being stationary for that length of time has put play to Esteban Gutierrez's race. First time since Italy in 2011 that Sauber have had a double retirement on a track where they very often score points. Ted, down to you.
Yeah, and when you put the car on the dolly, you know it's finished. So the brakes burning. I'll get down there and get a precise reason for retirement, but it's been bad news from start to finish for Sauber. They've got the Ferrari engine, they've got their problems with general setup, but especially with the brake-by-wire as well, with the software that controls that. But hopefully for them they can get their problems sorted in just the few days we've got now between now and Bahrain.
Okay, Rosberg seems to lose either oil or water for the last couple laps already.
Yeah, they'll be feeling that on his visor maybe.
Smells blood, doesn't he?
Smells something. If it's oil, it might be a bit sweet.
Car blood.
Yeah, it'll be a bit sweet as far as Sebastian Vettel is concerned. Something else is scenting something here. It's Fernando Alonso. He's just taken half a second out of Daniel Ricciardo's advantage on lap 37. And he's on the charge as well. The harder compound tyres. The top 3 have run the medium compound for both of the pit stop changes so far. They are going to have to stop once more. Of course, Ricciardo and Alonso don't necessarily.
Understood. It's
fresh set of tyres, picking up his pace as well. It's all just starting to bubble and boil quite nicely in the heats here in Malaysia. Hamilton's a long way out in front, but his teammate has Vettel on his tail. Vettel's teammate has Alonso on his tail. Massa has Jenson Button in his sights a little bit as well. He's starting to close on Button down in 7th place as we look at Esteban Gutierrez, who's out of this race, and Alicia Kaltenborn watching with interest on everyone else rather than their own team on the monitors.
Yeah, double retirement within a lap or so. Anything worse than that is when they run into each other. But bad news then for Sauber. Good news for Fernando Alonso as he starts to haul in the Red Bull of Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah, when he does haul him in, it's by quite a margin. Sector 1 by nearly 7/10 of a second. This sector that we're in at the moment is getting good traction out of turn 3. Decent braking as well into turn 4, and he's picking up time here before Ricciardo then starts to pull away a little bit.
The sky looks a bit angry to our left now as we're looking at this picture at the back of 7 and 8, which is where it tends to come in, isn't it? Out when it does arrive, bubbles up over there, out of apparently nowhere.
It's a touch grey behind our commentary box as well, which is where turn 9 is. We just opened the door, which is why the temperature's just risen in here by about 20 degrees.
Fernando always looks like he's sort of peeping out of that car. Sebastian sits quite high. Fernando sort of looks like he's peeping over the top of his steering wheel a bit.
Lock up going into turn 9. Once again, further ahead of these. Hamilton, 11.2 seconds clear. Rosberg's managing to extend his lead over his advantage over Sebastian Vettel, who's been told that he's got to use second gear in turns 1, 2 and 9. Rocky telling him to use that gear to help him a little bit. Down the long back straight we go once again, and the Ferrari too far back to make a pass on Ricciardo.
Instead of first gear, I'd imagine. I'm surprised they apparently had so much torque, or have so much torque, they could choose within a couple what they needed to take, so that cost him a lot of time, unlike the old V8s that wouldn't pull the skin off a rice pudding unless they were turning at 16,500 revs and beyond.
Just while we're watching this scrap at the moment.
Okay, speak up when you talk, speak up and repeat.
Copy. There's rain in the air and drops in 14. Rain drops in turn 14, but the track is dry.
Because you've got the engines on, man. We never hear anything at all. Sebastian Vettel today.
It's been one of the big bonuses, hasn't it, of the quieter engines, is that the pit-to-car radio seems to have been crystal clear, like you're standing next to somebody, but clearly that's all struggling a little bit.
Jenson Button just pitting. I was just about to say, while we're watching this battle, Felipe Massa catching Jenson Button, and now pits for a third time and goes onto the hard compound tyre with 16 laps to go in this race. Massa moves himself up into 7th place, and Button comes out in 9th, but the Williams was gaining on Button at a real rapid rate of knots, and as Button leaves the pit lane, Kevin Magnussen, who had the earlier 5-second stop-go penalty, comes in for what should be his last trip to the pits in this particular race.
McAvoy stacking them up nicely. Worked a treat, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Come out just behind Lewis Hamilton, I would imagine. Yes, he does, but Hamilton has lapped now Kevin Magnussen. There's Danny Fiat going through your screen. Fiat is running in 12th. Rosberg, and then Vettel. And after Vettel, I'm just wondering where Danny Ricciardo was. Here he is, coming into the pits. I saw the Ferrari and I'm thinking, right, what's happened to the Red Bull? Here he comes. 3-stop strategy then for Daniel Ricciardo.
Front left. Yeah. Was the front left on?
Well, it doesn't look particularly good.
They've told him to stop. Yeah. I don't think the front left was on properly.
Great spot, Martin, you're right. And they held him up on the jack for a long time, and he's now shaking his head because he's just realised what's happened. There is an absolute charge from the Red Bull mechanics to get to Daniel Ricciardo's car, but they're going to have to push him back and then make sure that that wheel is put on properly. This has absolutely wrecked Daniel Ricciardo's race.
They do have reverse gears, but if you reverse up the pit lane, it's been in place for decades, instant disqualification. You can only be pulled along the pit lane.
Yeah, and he had a disqualification in Australia. He's not going to pick up another one by reversing down the pit lane, but as he goes backwards towards his grid spot, he's going to find himself going from challenging for 4th, or being in 4th place in the race, to being lapped by the race leader Lewis Hamilton any moment now through no fault of his own, and a front left tyre that just wasn't done up properly. The harsh world of Formula One now being felt very much by Daniel Ricciardo.
All of the hundreds of times they've practiced this.
And they do. And he's still shaking his head. Ricciardo, as he comes back out onto the racetrack once again. Williams' team were in the gym this morning in our hotel at 8 o'clock, preparing themselves to get the pit stops done quickly. That's how much time they put into it. And there, Fernando Alonso goes around the outside of Daniel Ricciardo. 2 laps ago, that could have been in a battle for position. Now, Ricciardo has been lapped. That's how long he spent in the pit lane whilst they sorted this problem out.
Yeah, the gunman didn't have his hand in the air.
How does that car get released, Martin, when the gunman has not put his hand in the air to say the tyre's on properly?
They're being investigated for an unsafe release, and that's a slam dunk, isn't it? So he'll be getting a drive-through.
And was that a red light that was on as well on that stop-go as Daniel Ricciardo went away? Looked to me like it was.
So I think he'll get I think that famous smile was going to disappear for a while.
Okay, Fernando will be boxed at the end of this lap.
All the time in the world, Fernando Alonso, who's now in 4th place, but Nico Hülkenberg, of course, could move up into 4th, and he hasn't got to stop again. Remember, Hülkenberg has run the option and the prime, the medium and the hard compound tyre, so Hülkenberg and Alonso here, you just wonder if the race is going to start coming to Nico Hülkenberg a little bit in these closing stages. Grosjean, to let you know, by the way, has stopped for a 4th time in this race, I'm told. And there he is, ahead of Sebastian Vettel. He's on for a podium. It's Mercedes 1-2, and Sebastian Vettel 5 seconds now behind Nico Rosberg as Fernando Alonso comes in for what should be his final pit stop in this race. Nico Hülkenberg is now just coming down the main straight. And he's past Fernando Alonso. There's going to be quite a gap between the Ferrari and the Force India. And he's going to have 13 laps on fresher tyres and on the faster, the medium compound tyre to try and close it down a bit. But that could be... Oh, and what's happened here to Daniel Ricciardo? Front wing hanging at an angle and dragging on the ground. What has he made contact with? Or has the wing just failed? But a lap and a half, 2 laps after his race went spectacularly from good to bad, it's now gone from bad to much, much worse. Double trouble for Ricciardo, and that wing's going to come off, Martin.
Yeah, he knows he's got to take it steady down the back straight if that goes underneath his wheels.
What should I do? Pressure still looks okay, Daniel. If you think you've got a puncture, come in.
Yeah, it's a big cut.
This is front wings cutting that.
You can see it there, just underneath that front. All right, tyre flapping away on the ground. There's a little bit of front wing end plate that has deposited itself on the track. It remains to be seen what actually happened to Ricciardo. There's now bits of bodywork from that bits of front wing flying back over the car. And he's going to get passed again by Fernando Alonso on the circuit. Rotten luck this for Ricciardo. It's down the main straight. Did the wing just fail?
I wonder if it got damaged in some way in that pit stop and they had to jack it back up again, but he's not quite, because you can't see it from where you're sitting, his front wing.
Just come away the wing, hasn't it?
Yeah, it looks like the bonding, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I wonder if that got damaged when they were busy having to jack it up in a hurry in the pit stop.
It's very possible, but into the pits comes Ricciardo once again. Was running in 14th. Ted, you can see him.
Yeah, I can, and they're taking their time as quick as they can. They're putting the new nose cone and front wing on, just checking that there isn't any further damage to anything. He's already far enough behind. They put the hard tyres on again. I don't think they're obliged to do that, because by doing that lap on the doing the second stint, he has already, of course, run the hard tyres, so maybe they've run out of medium tyres. Anyway, he's back out on the hard tyres. And just to update you on Mercedes, what Vettel thought he saw coming out the back of the Mercedes car of Rosberg. Mercedes say they see nothing on the telemetry that would indicate that Rosberg is losing oil or water.
You're right, Ted. They had run out of brand new option tyres. He'd run 3 sets in the race, so that was a new medium hard compound.
We'd like to avoid going onto the primes too early, so stay out, do your pace and stay out.
So I think that they're that much slower.
Meanwhile, Hamilton smashes the fastest lap of the race with a low 1:44. And as the fuel loads go down, the tyres are in better nick. The track's probably rubbering back in a bit after the heavy rain we saw in qualifying.
Yeah, it's going to put Vettel and Hülkenberg very close together, albeit Vettel on fresher tyres towards the end of this race.
We're going for a good fight as well. If Massa has got that amount of fuel left, he's just a couple of seconds. He's 2.8 at the moment, but on a much quicker lap than Jenson Button. Bottas pits in the sister Williams, so they're going to be quite close together, the two Williams, particularly Massa and McLaren of Button.
And I'm not going to, as we watch once again, going over a curb, Daniel Ricciardo, that is where the damage happened on the front wing.
It shouldn't have done. Frankly, it should survive that.
But it definitely did a little jolt down, didn't it?
That's what made it come unstuck.
And to add to his woes, a 10-second stop-go penalty for unsafe release. Well, he's going to be any further back running this race in Singapore.
He's going to be radioing in saying, is this April the 1st already? You're kidding me.
Yeah, a day early for Daniel Ricciardo, who's out on track at the moment behind Max Chilton and Marcus Ericsson. Cruises past the Marussia. That's the Williams down there as well as Valtteri Bottas, I think it is. Ricciardo's at least a lap down on him. So we're running on board with him. Don't discount out Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel getting quite close by the end of this race as well, because Alonso is lapping at a mighty rate at the moment, and about 1.5 seconds a lap quicker than Hülkenberg ahead of him and Sebastian Vettel ahead of...
They're not really old, are they? They're just older.
Jenson Button, he's what now? 34, Felipe Massa 32. They're young pups, but in this modern age of Formula One are ancient. Teenagers scoring points in Australia. Now Felipe Massa's closing in on Jenson Button here, and doesn't want to get, for his sake, the overtake done into that hairpin, because he's now got, of course, some DRS use. But is Button within 1 second of Marcus Ericsson? Can he use DRS to try and defend down this main straight? Once again, the Williams closing in on the McLaren. Button makes that one move, can't make another move, of course, to try and defend his position. Massa's going to have to go all the way around the outside. Now switches towards the inside. Has he got far enough ahead of Button? No, by the time they get into turn 2. That was beautifully crafted defending by Button, but he might not have anything to defend with here, because Massa is now wheel to wheel down to the bottom of the hill with Jenson Button. He's going to have to go round the outside at turn 4. Can't quite get the car ahead of the McLaren to make the move up into 6th place, but he gave it a right old go, and yeah, that was a wise, experienced head on the shoulders of Jenson Button to protect his position.
Very well-placed car by Jenson Button. Slightly wasted opportunity there by Felipe Massa.
I think he might try again next lap.
Yeah.
Which way is he going to go? To the left or to the right?
He, you know, the trouble is, if you're going to cruise up behind somebody, you don't want to damage your tyres or overheat your car in their slipstream. You've got to do it straight away.
Well, that's been happening. Fernando Alonso, another second, 1.7 seconds faster than Nico Hülkenberg. He's reduced the margin now down to 9 seconds. He's got Hülkenberg within his sights, and he's got the laps to do it between now and the checkered flag. And Sebastian Vettel has to pit once more. The gap between Vettel and Alonso is about 36 seconds at the moment. It might be a bit of a last lap drama if Alonso can keep this going once again. Meanwhile, Button and Massa, part 2.
Well, we think Massa's got more fuel than Button. So Jenson obviously was using his overboost situation there. You can use it in attack or defence. Obviously, you can't break the 100 kilograms per hour fuel flow limit. And now Bottas is catching them up nicely as well. Ted?
Yeah, although on the Red Bull pit, actually, Rocky, Vettel's engineer, has been telling him to respect the fuel limits. So Vettel clearly wanting to work the car harder than the fuel rules will allow. But we'll talk about that after the race. Weather-wise, looks like we might get a shower at the end of the race. It's coming in from the last corner where it came in from yesterday. Black clouds down there. And Jenson Button and Felipe Massa, it's a good fight. It's been pretty much like this the whole race, actually. But McLaren pit wall just keeping Jenson to date, letting him know Jenson the best McLaren runner at the moment, with Kevin Magnussen down in ninth. So they're just letting him know of the gap and helping him out, trying to stay ahead of the Brazilian.
Yeah, just looking at the fight, we don't often mention this, Martin. The lower stages, Kamui Kobayashi 13th, Marcus Ericsson 14th, Max Chilton 15th. Kobayashi finishes 13th. That moves him level with Chilton's 13th in Australia, but that 14th place there by Marcus Ericsson might yet be quite crucial come the end of the season, because it would actually put Caterham ahead of Marussia in that championship standings, and there's like around about a $30 million difference for Caterham if they get 10th of the constructors this year, as opposed to 11th once more. Long way to go in the season, but you've got to maximise the chances when they come. Alonso has just set the fastest lap of the race. Well, we watch Button and Massa again. The gap between Alonso and Hülkenberg is now 7.2 seconds. I reckon that with about 2 or 3 laps to go, Alonso's right on Hülkenberg's tail here for 4th place.
Yeah, this is a good little fight shaping up, isn't it? Button, Massa, Bottas, all with Mercedes power, of course.
Hamilton's lead 13 seconds at the moment. From Nico Rosberg, Sebastian Vettel just crossing the line now. They've all got to pit once more, the top
okay,
3.
Lewis, looks like everyone's holding out for this rain. Just keep managing the tyres, you're doing a great job.
Their 3rd stop, Danny Ricciardo has made 5 so far.
In the pits that often this afternoon, he'll be getting a season ticket next year. And that's the state of the tyres. They're going to need replacing, but when you've got the margin, Martin, it's sensible to wait, isn't it, for the rain to come or not?
Yeah, you don't want to waste a pit stop.
But I think, as we said, Force India have just played to the strengths of their car and the strategy. Absolutely spot on. Still might not be good enough to give Nico Hülkenberg a 3rd, 4th place finish in Formula 1. But you wonder, they couldn't have done much better on that.
He's good, Hülkenberg, isn't he? Have we mentioned that before? 2 or 3 years.
I vaguely recall once, but should we do that? 7 laps from the end of every race, shall we say? Everyone. Not bad, that Hülkenberg. He's not bad as well. Fernando Alonso, 3 times a winner here with different constructors, of course. And he is catching the Force India and has been doing for quite some laps. He doesn't have to stop again. Hülkenberg doesn't have to stop again. Sebastian Vettel does, and he might...
Box. Torque map 1 and box. Torque 1 and box.
Just as I say, he might have to stop again. Teddy's going to be coming your way soon.
He is, and Vettel has been warned to stay off the curbs at turn 14, where Ricciardo had that problem. So in he comes with the pits, but they'll want to strengthen that front wing and the nose pylon before the next race in Bahrain. Such short amount of time, taking their time about it, Red Bull, making sure they don't have a repeat of Ricciardo's problem. And he passes me now in the pit lane on the hard tyre, his 3rd of 3 stops. Look at that, 3.3 seconds. Just a quick one also on the weather. It is coming in, but it doesn't look team ready.
Box.
Yeah, okay, Nico Rosberg. It is coming in, so Mercedes just hanging on with Lewis Hamilton. You can see Nico Rosberg pitting now. Mercedes with Hamilton just keeping their options open, but everything looking good for Hamilton so far.
Lap 50 of this race, and Sebastian Vettel's pit stop, where he lost about another 3 or 4 tenths of a second to the previous pit stops of this guy Hülkenberg and that guy Alonso, has now concertina this scrap together for the final podium position.
Hülkenberg's tyres, though, 8 laps older than Fernando Alonso's, and we're saying that they're going off at 0.2 of a second per lap. So that is why Alonso's catching him at a vast rate of knots.
Theoretically, Vettel should have fresher tyres and therefore the ability to use them to get onto the podium, but it's not going to stop Alonso really going for this, and certainly with a bit of DRS assistance once he gets nearer to Hulkenberg, that might help him close even more.
Absolutely. Vettel should run and hide now from these two. It's really all about fourth place, isn't it? And you'd have to put your money on Alonso on that. Massa still 1.2 behind Jenson Button, and Rosberg pits for the final time. Then he's got to pit, of course, to put on the hard compound tyres with the orange mark.
So as he now pits, Sebastian Vettel is just starting down the back straight. So they've got enough in hand for Nico Rosberg. They've got enough in hand for Lewis Hamilton as well. They've built up that advantage. So there's the Ferrari coming into view, but it's not Fernando Alonso. It is Kimi Raikkonen, who's had a really miserable day for him, but currently running in 12th place ahead of Kamui Kobayashi by about 30 seconds. Much better day for Caterham, though, ahead of the Marussia of Chiltern.
Raikkonen can score a point. He needs, he's got to pass Grosjean and Kvyat. Yeah, 3 seconds up the road. He's got a chance.
Okay, Lewis, so box, 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 box.
Mercedes will now be welcoming the race leader in a few moments' time. Hamilton got about 3 turns and a kilometre-long straight to get there as we look at Danny Kvyat, Romain Grosjean and Kimi Raikkonen. Kvyat in 10th place at the moment. Raikkonen with half a chance here of getting himself into the points, and after a second lap puncture, it's quite a charge through the field for the Ferrari. Worth saying as well, Martin, you know, we've lost 2 Saubers, Toro Rosso, a Marussia and a Lotus, and Perez who didn't start, but you know, only 6 not making it to the flag thus far. Reports of half the field not finishing, wide of the mark.
Well, once again, 2 of those knocked out through contact on the first lap too.
5 laps remaining then for your race leader, Lewis Hamilton, who has led bar 1 lap when Nico Hulkenberg hadn't pitted for the entirety of this race, having never won in Malaysia before, having been 3rd here in the last 2 years. Hamilton is now free from his pit stop strategy and back onto the racetrack again, and we keep our fingers crossed for him, off to claim his first win of the season, and a long way clear of his teammate Nico Rosberg. Meanwhile, Kimi Raikkonen is right on Romain Grosjean's tail, an important man for Raikkonen to try and clear, and then he can try and get after Kvyat and get into the points, as Daniel Ricciardo into the pits once again. And I think terminal Ricciardo's problem, because that's him out of the race. And here's Hulkenberg and Alonso. We've been expecting this one for a few laps.
I don't really see how the Hulk's going to have much of a defence unless he's got the widest Formula 1 car in history. He hasn't got the tyres.
The trouble is he's on one of the widest tracks on the calendar as well. There's plenty of room either side for Alonso to get past. 22 metres wide this track at its widest point. And Fernando Alonso can pick his moment. See how the gap has reduced in the last 4 laps.
The cars are only 1.8 metres wide, so as you say, plenty of space.
Even with the amount of marbles that we're seeing, Hulkenberg looking in his mirrors there. Last year would have hoped to have been Fernando Alonso's teammate at one stage, very nearly made it to be Alonso's teammate, but racing in different cars, as Ricciardo, who did get the move up to one of the bigger teams, has to retire from this race. More disappointment for him, this time during the race, not after it. And now, after Hulkenberg, comes Alonso around that really tricky penultimate corner, but he gets a much better traction out of it.
Okay, Felipe, Valtteri's faster than you, do not hold him up. Valtteri's faster than you, do not hold him up.
Team orders at Williams as Fernando Alonso.
You're faster than Massa, overtake him. You're faster than Massa, overtake him.
As Fernando Alonso is now right on the tail of Hulkenberg with DRS usage. They flash past the camera and down the main straight. Alonso to put himself up into 4th place in the race, but Hulkenberg fighting back as best he can. Alonso hasn't managed to get the move done at the end of the straight. Does get the move done. Going into turn 1. Can he keep ahead going into turn 2? No, he's gone that little bit wider. Hulkenberg has managed to fight his way back. Here comes turn 3. And third time of asking, Fernando Alonso gets himself into 4th place.
That's the kind of F1 racing we like to see, and that layout just there always creates those kinds of opportunity. I thought the Hulk coming out of turn 2 gave him a little bit too much space, was quite kind to him. I think he was scared of just sliding across the track and running into the side of him and throwing away a 5th place even. It'll be a good result, but great driving from the pair of them. Alonso had the grip and had the determination.
And the crowd really appreciated that. Big fans of Fernando Alonso and Ferrari in Malaysia. While that was happening, we heard about team orders at Williams. Bottas being told, you can go after Felipe Massa. He's not going to hold you up. There you go, Massa ahead of Bottas. Just ahead of these two on the road is Jenson Button. You can see it. And that's why Williams are giving the order.
Yeah, and that's a man, Felipe Massa, who spent half his career being told to move over for Michael Schumacher. I don't think he'll be that keen.
That's the last thing he wanted to hear this year. Valtteri is faster than you, but that's what Williams are saying to him. Will Felipe Massa move aside, or will he make it difficult for his teammate? As it is, you know, Bottas hasn't got past him yet.
And that was before he got told to move over for Fernando Alonso, of course. So Massa will not want to be hearing that, but Williams is thinking, look, Bottas might just be able to catch and pass Button.
We're approaching the closing stages here in Malaysia. Hamilton, with the new fastest lap of the race, leads by 13.5 seconds from his teammate Nico Rosberg. Then it's Vettel.
Okay, Felipe, Valtteri's got better tires. We need to let him go. Do not hold him up.
And not once but twice, Felipe given the order for Valtteri Bottas to get past him. Let's see what happens on this occasion. You can see Massa struggling to get out of turn 14. Bottas on the power, but can he get him?
Massa's tyres are 2 laps older only than Bottas.
And there's Jenson Button just ahead as well. Time is running out in terms of laps. Does Massa just pull to one side here? Is Bottas really close enough for Massa to say, no, OK, you go off and do it?
Not really. Of course, Massa's in the Bottas is in the turbulent air, but Massa just doesn't want to give that psychological advantage away, and he's so bruised from his own experiences.
And on the track where team orders became a massive story last year for Red Bull, a story of sorts for Mercedes, it might be turning out to be another story here, this time for Williams. Into turn 4, still Felipe Massa ahead of Valtteri Bottas. I think his argument could be here, Martin, look, he's not close enough.
Yeah.
Why should I let him past? But Bottas's argument will be, yeah, you're holding me up just by being there. No one's going to get us from behind, Felipe.
I don't know if he has replied to that radio message, maybe pretending he didn't hear it.
Meanwhile, Romain Grosjean still ahead of Kimi Raikkonen. The Lotus doing a fine job there to keep Kimi Raikkonen at bay, albeit he locks, doesn't he, Grosjean, going into the first corner.
Lotus are going to be massively pleased with this race. They have got potential in that car.
Performed superbly well. Ted, to you.
Yeah, still lots of different... There's still lots of different voices over the radio to Massa. Now they're telling him that they need him to cool the car for temperatures. I don't blame Massa for ignoring team orders, putting his foot down, and that's what he's doing at the moment.
Spent a long time, Felipe, being a number 2 driver, was hoping that would end when he went to Williams, and Williams have now just told...
Okay, Lewis, you are the fastest man on track. We can back the pace off a little bit. Just look after the car.
Okay, man, I hear you.
Just been told, Valtteri Bottas, you're racing Felipe Massa. I think the message has got through that that is not going to be a gentleman's excuse me down there. And they are racing. Look, there's Felipe Massa, separated by less than a car's length with Valtteri Bottas. Getting closer to his teammate all the time. Now, is Bottas going to go for a big dive down the inside at turn 4? It's coming his way any moment now. Tries to slipstream and get into some decent air behind Massa. Can't quite under braking get past the Brazilian. It is still Massa in 7th place, Bottas in 8th. And all this is helping Jenson Button in 6th, who doesn't seem to be under any pressure from the Williams. It might. Nico Rosberg told me earlier in the week, you know, at Mercedes, we're free to fight for the race, but there are times you have to put the interests of the team first. That was his words, meaning, you know, sometimes we've got to adhere to the rules.
Okay, Lewis, so you're on your final lap, take no risks.
And Mercedes, who haven't had a 1-2 finish since, what, the Italian Grand Prix, was it, in 1955? are looking at a 1-2 finish here and just saying, Lewis, bring the car home. Meanwhile, Raikkonen is still scrapping away and trying to overtake for fun rather than points here, and Grosjean is still rather holding him up.
Yeah, Raikkonen pitted on lap 35, of course, so he's running out of grip. We'd normally expect him to fly past that Lotus, given the relative performance of him, but the Lotus has shown much better today.
Nothing has been as good as the Mercedes of Lewis Hamilton, who now has the long back straight and part of the main straight to go. He's looking for his 100th points finish in Formula One this weekend. That is going to come his way. His run without a podium is going to come to an end as well. And his wait for the first win of the season is now going to end for Lewis Hamilton, who takes the cheers from the crowd and his team and wins the Malaysia Grand Prix. It's maximum points for Hamilton. It's going to be maximum points for Mercedes. Hamilton first, Rosberg round the final turn to make it a 1-2 for the Mercedes team. Hamilton from Rosberg in Malaysia.
And Massa still ahead of Bottas.
And Niki Lauda and Toto Wolff are celebrating, but they'll be mightily chuffed down at Red Bull as well, as Sebastian Vettel takes his first podium of the year to come home in third place, as Raikkonen tries to overtake Grosjean. A lap ahead, Fernando Alonso comes home to finish fourth. They make the run down towards the podium. Nico Hülkenberg won't be on that, but a very fine fifth for him. Jenson Button should come home for sixth, and still Valtteri Bottas is behind Felipe Massa, and this is going all the way to the flag.
It is. We're going to do, I don't know if you can see a lunge into the last corner, but Massa's got a reasonable gap now, and Button's cleared off from them by a second or so, and a good exit there from Felipe Massa, probably a better exit than Bottas in that respect. Bottas should get some DRS though, but Massa will have him covered.
There's Jenson Button on his way to sixth place. Valtteri Bottas does get DRS assistance, but he's just that little bit too far behind to make a lunge down the inside. It's Button to come home for sixth. It's Massa for his first points of the season. He ignored the team orders and finishes seventh, ahead of Valtteri Bottas in eighth. It'll be Kevin Magnussen and Danny Fiat picking up points for McLaren and for Toro Rosso. A lap down. Grosjean managed to finish ahead of Raikkonen. Kobayashi 13th, big finish that for Caterham, ahead of Ericsson.
Awesome race, Lewis, awesome race. Faultless weekend. You've done the job there, pal.
Really grateful for the job, guys. Thank you so much.
And in 16 runnings of the Malaysia Grand Prix, an 8th 1-2 finish as well for a 6th different team. Ferrari, Williams, Renault, McLaren, Red Bull, and now Mercedes with a 1-2, and in front of their biggest backer, a very timely 1-2 as well.
But that was just perfect for him, wasn't it? And he had the whole field, and not least his teammate, covered from the first corner. His pace was blistering.
Yeah, Rosberg seemed to struggle on his tyres.
Thanks, boys. Well executed race. We're not yet there where we want to be. There's a lot of stuff we still need to improve, but we'll get there.
I still think a podium for Red Bull would have been beyond what they were thinking about after the first and second Bahrain test. After that final test in Bahrain, did they think they'd be in a position? They know they have the manpower, the resources, the expertise, but to be third in Malaysia, that gives us hope that Mercedes and Red Bull can compete equally soon.
Yeah, let's hope they keep this one. They did manage to keep it in Oz.
Hamilton then into the top spot. Here's the top man of Mercedes, Niki Lauda.
Niki, you taking your hat off to Lewis's engineers. The reliability was good today.
Everything was really perfect.
And what about Lewis's driving?
Perfect. Nico's perfect driving. You can't do anything better.
You're having a good season so far, aren't you?
Yeah.
Well done.
Man, a few words, but it's nice to see him smiling. It's going to be nice to see Lewis Hamilton smile too, converting his 33rd pole position in Formula One to his 23rd win. And after all the disappointment of not being able to race and compete in Australia, he can go to Bahrain very pleased with his efforts.
He was confident last night at the Sky Pad. He just was so happy. You know, when Lewis, you know, he wears his emotions very much openly.
doesn't have to take the helmet off there, and Nico Rosberg, his teammate, who I don't think will be totally unhappy at finishing second either, because he got the win in the first race.
I just always look at those two, remember them bouncing in the McLaren motorhome when they were about 13 years old, Hamilton Rosberg, when they were teammates karting, and they were so confident, so up. Where those two kids were, they knew where they were heading, and here they are.
Smiles all around, I think, for the top three here. Stark contrast to last year's podium in Malaysia. And there is the result, not the 24-second margin that Rosberg won by in Australia, a 17-second margin this time for Hamilton over his teammate, with Vettel completing the top three. Alonso, good strategy from Ferrari, got him ahead of Hülkenberg, who came home to finish fifth. And I just mentioned Kobayashi 13th, Ericsson 14th. It moves Caterham then ahead of Marussia. Max Chilton finished and keeps up his record, 22 races, 22 finishes for him now. His teammate Jules Bianchi was taken out when he collided with Maldonado. Perez didn't start. Vernon, Sutil, Gutierrez and the very unlucky Ricciardo all had to retire. And off for Ricciardo, great start, and then it just kind of went from bad to worse in the last third of the race.